Okay. Welcome once again. It's 12 noon West African time. I would like to welcome you all to the May edition of the RETRIDOL monthly discourse webinar. The Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria and principal officers here present, emeritus professors here, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the May edition this year of RETRIDOL's monthly webinar series. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the RETRIDOL stands for Regional Training and Research Institute for Distance and Open Learning. And it's an institute where 20 years this year was established as a collaboration between the National Open University of Nigeria and the Commonwealth of Learning, Canada, to build capacity for open and distance learning and to support research activities and foster regional partnerships, particularly in the West African sub-region. This monthly discourse series has been designed as a platform to share ideas based on research and expertise and have conversations about ODL, EL, and related issues. And we are very excited and happy that the last 13, 14 months, we've covered very interesting topics. For those of you joining us for the first time, we will share our website. It's archived, all the recordings are archived there, including the slides. We've been privileged to have quite a number of experienced and experts, distinguished persons at this webinars. And this month and today's webinar is not going to be any different. Our focus this month is on generative AI, the promises and pitfalls in open online and distance education. This is actually the second webinar we're having on AIs. In February, we had a panel that discussed the pros and cons of their integration, particularly looking at the implication of ChatGPT for distance education. This remains an ongoing conversation in several fora, as you probably are aware, especially as AI is rapidly advancing, and especially generative AI is creating new possibilities and challenges in the field of education as it is in other fields. ODL, characterized by its accessibility and flexibility, has quite a bit to gain from integrating generative AIs, but there are a lot of hesitations. On this side of the world, there's still a lot of hesitation in even understanding and adapting, to the use of AIs. And the questions include, how do we harness and maximize the full potential of AI in open distance and e-learning to empower faculty, to create engaging content, to create authentic assessment, just as examples, and ultimately to enhance our learners' learning experiences. And then what are the pitfalls? So to explore the implications of generative AI in this context of open distance and online learning, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce to us our distinguished speaker and expert, Professor Aras Bozkurt. Professor Bozkurt is a researcher and faculty member in the Department of Distance Education, Open Education Faculty of Anadolu University in Turkey. He holds a master's and PhD degree in distance education. Professor Bozkurt conducts empirical studies on distance education, open and distance learning, online learning, networked learning, and educational technology, to which he applies various critical theories, such as connectivism, rhizomatic learning, and hutology. He's also interested in emerging research paradigms, including social network analysis, sentiment analysis, and data mining. without further ado, Professor Bozkurt, you're welcome to the RETRIDOL platform.
Let me share my screen.
Okay.
I think now you see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect.
Okay, so just to say before you start, he'll be speaking for roughly about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, and we will have a discussion, question and answer time afterwards. But please do feel free to leave comments and questions in the chat, even while the presentation is going on. Thank you very much. Over to you, Aras.
Okay, hello everyone. Today I will make a presentation entitled as Generative AI, Promise and Pitfalls in Open Online and Distance Education. And I'm really honored to be hosted by Regional Training and Research Institute for Distance and Open Learning. Let me briefly introduce myself. I am an associate professor of distance education at Anadolu University, Turkey. I am the editor-in-chief of Asian Journal of Distance Education and Open Practice Journal, and associate editor of Higher Education Research and Development Journal, Online Learning, Computer Applications in Engineering Education, and e-learning magazine. Before I start my presentation, I would like to ask you a question. You don't necessarily give an answer right now or write something to the chat box, but please think about that question. We will revisit that question later on to explore the answer altogether. The question is, what is the most sophisticated technology that has been invented by the humankind? So you can consider, you can have different answers. As I told you, we will revisit that question in the following slide. Indeed, humans have always been fascinated by the idea of machines that can think like humans. The dream of thinking machines can be traced back to the ancient times when philosophers and scientists began to speculate about the possibility of creating artificial intelligence. One of the earliest examples of a thinking machine is the automata, which was depicted by René Descartes in the 17th century. The automata was a self-operating machine that could respond to inputs provided by humans. Although the automata was not very sophisticated by today's standards, it was a significant step forward in the development of artificial intelligence. In the 17th century, Wolfgang von Kempelen invented the mechanical Turk, which was another early example of a thinking machine. The mechanical Turk was a chess-playing automation that was able to defeat many human opponents. Although the mechanical Turk was actually a hoax, it helped to popularize the idea of artificial intelligence. In the wonderful Wizard of Oz, an intelligent humanoid robot, the Tin Man acts like a human and imitates not only the intelligence of a man, but also their emotions, as in the example of Frankenstein. Another well-known example is Carol Capek's science fiction play, Rossum's Universal Robot, that introduced the term robot for the first time. In brief, these and many other examples can be considered as early signals of artificial intelligence. In the 20th century, AI began to take on a more serious tone. In 1950, Alan Turing published a paper entitled Computing Machinery and Intelligence, in which he proposed the Turing Test, a test of machines' ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. The Turing Test is still used today as a benchmark for AI. In a collection of science fiction short stories by Isaac Asimov, one of my favorite authors, in 1950. All robots are designed to abide by Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, a set of instructions to prevent robots from turning on their creators, as in the monster or in Frankenstein, or as in the many popular science fiction movies. Despite the developments mentioned earlier, one of the most significant turning points in the tangible sense of AI was the invention of NER, the first computer in 1945. The first computer was metaphorically called a giant electronic brain, and this comparison can be thought of not just for processing power, but as a brain where AI could come to life, operate, and algorithmically think. So humanity's 3,000-year-long fictional and conceptual pursuit ended in 1955 with the coining of the concept of artificial intelligence, and the invention of computers and rapid developments have taken place up to the present day. In line with the aforementioned thought, Marshall McLuhan argued that any technology is an extension of humans, which means that online networks are extension of human neurons, and similarly, AI is an extension of human intelligence. It is also important to separate generic AI as we know, from generative AI, the one recently became popular. To better understand the difference, we have to revisit their definition. The term artificial intelligence was articulated for the first time in 1955 by John McCarthy, Marvin Minsky, Nathaniel Rochester, and Claudia Shannon for the Dortmund Summer Research Project on Artificial Intelligence. The study is to proceed on the basis of conjecture that every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence can, in principle, be so precisely described that a machine can be made to simulate it. For a more modern approach, Russell and Norvig define AI as the study of agents that receive percepts from the environment and perform action. Russell and Norvig also note that how we define intelligence matters. For example, thinking humanly, acting humanly, thinking rationally, and acting rationally. And they further stress that AI definition can range from human versus traditional and thought versus behavior dimension. More recently, another definition was proposed by UNICEF, which was also adopted by OECD and European Union countries. The definition provided by UNICEF is more comprehensive and doesn't merely rely on data, identifies the role of humans and systems that operate autonomously, and puts an emphasis on interactions with humans, which is further useful in terms of framing AI technologies in education. When it comes to defining generative AI, it is a technology that uses neural networks to identify the patterns and structures within existing data to generate new and original content. In short, generative AI doesn't only predict based on algorithms and models, it also generates, and the raw material it uses is language. In a very short time, we all witnessed that generative AI has driven a large public interest. And when that is the case, there are some recent and diverse reflections requiring us to think critically. For instance, Bill Gates argues that the age of AI has already begun and we have to embrace the new paradigm and change ahead of us. On the other hand, several notable people such as Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and Yuval Noah Harari signed an open letter published by Pitfalls Life Institute and expressed their concerns that AI labs recklessly try to develop powerful digital minds that even their creators aren't able to control or predict their behaviors. Harari further argues that AI has gained some remarkable abilities to manipulate and generate language, whether with words, sounds, or image. AI therefore has hacked the operating system of human civilization because it can master the human language. Likewise, Chomsky claims that AI has limited reasoning abilities and it will undermine our scientific pursuits and compromise our moral principles by integrating a fundamentally misperceived understanding of language and knowledge. These considerations show us that we should focus on the advantages and disadvantages of generative AI technologies before fully adapting them to educational processes. And we should approach the use of generative AI with caution. Now, it's time to examine, to answer the question posed at the beginning of the presentation. It was, what was the most sophisticated technology that has been invented by the humankind? Probably you will think of digital technologies such as computers, internet, smartphones, but the most important invention of mankind, humankind, is indeed language. And perhaps you realize that all those critical reflections was focusing on the use of language by a non-human entity, that is generative AI. Throughout the history, technologies utilizing language have been major turning points. These include the invention of writing, which enabled the symbolic processing of language, the printing press, which facilitated dissemination of knowledge more widely and rapidly, and the creation of computers, which were capable of processing binary language. In the age of digital information and technology, generative AI using natural language processing, which represents one of the most significant technological advancements, and using language as the raw material, craft and generate new content. Unlike from generative AI has the potential to master human language, one of the most complex and sophisticated technologies ever created, and it can use human knowledge to identify patterns that may elude human perception. Interestingly, when properly trained, generative AI is a powerful tool that can learn, unlearn, and relearn language, allowing it to adopt and evolve with the human communication needs. Generative AI technologies do not learn per se, but rather they undergo training. I mean, training like dogs or anything. I mean, we train them. So we provide input and we create a model. The offerings they present are ultimately a product of the content we provide, which feeds their algorithms. Consequently, this viewpoint emphasizes the importance of big data as it functions as a rapid data repository. Metaphorically, a data farm from which generative AI can extract and harvest information, contextualize it into knowledge, and ultimately attain a so-called algorithmic wisdom. A potential concern arises from the utilization of language, arguably humans' most sophisticated technology, by non-human entities. The management of information through language is a hallmark of intelligence that differentiates humans from other organisms or entities, and presently, uh, generative AI represents another user of this technology. If we approach case from the perspective of education, learning is inherently social, and as such, interaction and communication serve as a vital element of educational processes. In light of this view, the capacity to engage with generative AI becomes crucial, crucial because prompt engineering as an emerging form of digital literacy. The emphasis shifts from extensive knowledge to the method of inquiry. While it is unlikely that generative AI will supplant humans, it is plausible that individuals proficient in effective prompting will outpace their lexical counterparts or colleagues. In the end, magic of generative AI will happen with well-structured, well-designed, and well-devised prompts. Every new technology brings some opportunities and challenges, and generative AI is included in these technologies. In order to emphasize this situation, the economists depicted generative AI as both an angel and devil on its cover. We can better understand the answer to the question of whether generative AI is an angel or devil by looking at what the opportunities and challenges presented. No technology is neutral, and every technology has its own opportunities and challenges, affordances and risks. Of course, we agree that these generative AI technologies have created new opportunities in the education landscape. Some of the most notable opportunities can be listed as follows. The first one is personalized learning. Generative AI can be used to create interactive learning experiences that are tailored to individual students' preferences, needs, and abilities. Inclusive curriculum. Generative AI can crawl across the global content in many languages to help educators develop more gender and culturally inclusive learning materials and lessons. However, this is also reliant on educators specifically asking it to do so. I mean, giving the right prompt. Inclusive curriculum can also be linked to the OER and OEP, because now we can create open educational resources by using generative AI. The other one is enhanced collaboration and cooperation. Generative AI can be used to facilitate collaboration and cooperation between students, teachers, and other educational stakeholders, allowing for more effective communication and knowledge sharing. Automated assessment. Generative AI can be used to grade student assignments, providing immediate feedback and saving a lot of time. Improved accessibility. Generative AI can be used to make education more accessible for students with special learning needs. Efficiency in time and effort. These AI technologies can be used to assist educators in completing tasks such as writing emails, summarizing educational concepts, and creating quiz questions, which can save time and allow educators to spend more time on interpersonal interactions with students. Improving language skills can be considered another opportunity. And of course, 24/7 availability. this provides a flexible and always accessible conversational educational agent. Of course, most of these opportunities are lure us to use artificial intelligence. However, there are some challenges, some devil characteristics we have to focus on. While these natural language processing models have brought many opportunities to the educational landscape, they have also posed some challenges, and addressing these challenges will require joint efforts between educators, technologists, learners, and other stakeholders, as well as ongoing investment in research and development. Some of these challenges are as follows. The first one is algorithmic bias. Because generative AI is so quick and convenient, there is a risk that generative AI models may perpetuate or amplify existing biases in the training data they are built on. Reliability of the knowledge resources and quality control. Ensuring the quality and accuracy of information delivered by generative AI can be challenging, especially as the volume of the data and interactions grow. Inequality and inequity in access to such technologies. Although generative AI offers many opportunities, it is possible to create or widen a digital divide between the haves and the have-nots, because not everyone can access these technologies. As generative AI evolves, probably, and actually it's happening now, premium features are now being released at various free levels, which may present a financial barrier to some users. Therefore, unless we can ensure fair distribution, inequality and inequity seem inevitable. And this is happening actually with every innovative and new technology. Lack of creativity and critical thinking. Generative AI is an algorithmic model. It can provide answers, but it doesn't have the ability to think critically or creatively as a human does. Humans, by their nature, unpredictable, but whichever AI model, I mean, generic or generative, we can predict their outputs and behaviors and thinking patterns. Manipulated AI models or manipulation by AI trainers. This is one of the most important challenges. The decision-making process is a human-specific, subjective, sophisticated, and unpredictable process, which is the result of the interplay between various factors depending on reasoning, imagination, reflection, and empathy. However, AI models in decision-making processes risk being formalized, possibly due to manipulation by these models. Ignorance of human agency in educational processes. This is also one of the important challenges that we should focus on. Teaching and learning are social process, and there is much emphasis on human expertise and social interaction. However, removing the human component from an equation of educational processes can cause these processes to become automated and mechanized, which goes against the fundamental mission of the education. Teacher replacement. There is a risk that generative AI could be presented as an option to replace human teachers, leading to job loss and exacerbating the dehumanization of education if society and stakeholders do not understand the invaluable role of educators in the formal social learning context. Privacy and ethics concerns, storing and using student data for educational purposes raises important privacy concerns, and it is important to ensure that this data is protected and used in an ethical manner. Technical complexity and dependence on technology can be listed other challenges. All in all, opportunities and challenges coexist. Perhaps at that point, at that stage, the question is not whether AI should be introduced into education, but rather how, when, by whom, and for what purposes AI should be used in education. Actually, we need broad interdisciplinary reflections and critical discussions in our whole society. Moreover, the leading role of human educators in education should not be underestimated, and the supporting role of technology, no matter how advanced it is, should not be over-exaggerated. Looking back on the history of education, developments in education have always been accompanied by advancements in science and technology. However, it is human agency that has led to educational development, not any technology. Therefore, we can argue that what we get in the speculative future will depend on how we perceive these technologies and position them with care and intention in the educational landscape. In all, we are not only transitioning into the age of AI, but we are also witnessing the emergence of the AI-empowered semantic web, commonly known as Web 3. During such time, new technologies like generative AI can be disruptive and, in some cases, scary. These technologies possess their own strengths and limitations, but it is crucial to remember that they will improve over time, and many of their limitations may disappear before we even realize. In the face of it, we can neither disregard, resist, nor deny the enduring presence of generative AI-driven conversational agents. They are here, and we have to understand and find solutions how to use them in the education landscape. And the capacity for these agents to employ human language for communication and interaction implies actually an inevitable paradigm shift. There are instances where generative AI has been criticized for generating superficial or false information and not living up to initial expectations. However, it is also important to acknowledge that this limitation is not exclusive to AI, as humans are also imperfect. It would be naive to expect these technologies to be error-free. The ongoing discourse on AI brings to mind an old song. Many of us heard this song with the introduction of television and later computers and the internet, and smart mobile devices presented us with a familiar tune. These technologies didn't deceive or fool us, rather they significantly contribute to human progress and accelerated the rate at which knowledge doubled. Presently, the song remains unchanged, but the technology has evolved and the pace of the song has quickened. At this point, what we need to do is genuinely listen to the song and creatively adapt our dance moves to harmonize with the melody. Actually, I believe that AI is a killer technology, and this killer technology will undoubtedly have a profound impact, not only our ways of teaching and learning, but also the ways we think and perceive the world. As we continue to explore the possibilities of generative AI in education, it is critical that we maintain a critical and reflective stance, carefully considering the promises and challenges associated with these technologies. Future research should perhaps aim to identify ways to mitigate the risks associated with generative AI in education, while also maximizing its potential to support and enhance student learning. In short, humanity is experiencing a storm of change and transformation driven by technological developments, with all of us created in the midst of this storm. The vast potential of this groundbreaking technology necessitates increased vigilance and prudence from humans, bearing in mind a critical aspect. Should any mishap transpire, the responsibility ultimately lies with us, the creators. After all, if the error is human, so is it inherent in machines as we create technology in our own image. I think it is now high time for self-promotion. I want to introduce two papers, actually this presentation based on these papers. The first paper is entitled as Speculative Futures on ChatGPT and Generative AI, a collective reflection from the educational landscape. It's a long paper and written by more than 30 authors across the globe. And if you read that paper, this paper also has 5 Easter eggs and some hidden messages. So you have to read it carefully if you want to find and see the Easter eggs and hidden messages. The second paper is entitled Generative Artificial Intelligence Powered Conversational Educational Agents, the Inevitable Paradigm Shift. In this paper, I discuss why generative AI is a breakthrough technology, and I will share the link from the chat box.
Okay.
Thank you for being here and listening to me. Please feel free to communicate for further conversations, and I'm also happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Bozkurt. Can we give him a round of applause, whether electronically or with manually? Thank you so much. I think we're going to open to questions, but just a very brief recap. He took us, I gave an historical overview of the beginnings, and did highlight the issue of language as the most sophisticated aspect of generative AI, the training of machines, the fact that they can't think critically, that still remains a purview of humans, and the looking at, you know, the pros, the advantages, what they can be used for, and the challenges. I think a lot of questions will come from, you know, looking at the challenges. And also he had a lot of concluding remarks. I like the statement about creating technology in our own image, and therefore it has limitations just as humans have their limitations, but that those limitations as technology improves will disappear. And so the question is not whether we should integrate generative AIs into teaching and learning, but how, when, and for what purpose. And And also the fact that this is not only just for teaching and learning, but looking beyond teaching and learning to the future of work, because these are already being utilized in the work in the future in the workplace. Also, just to highlight future research, this happens to be a platform where research ideas are also generated. And so it's giving us some ideas to look at identifying risks and maximizing the potential of generative AIs for student learning. I know some of us would have taken up some other points, but the floor is open for comments, for questions and answers. And for that, I'll hand over to Felix to handle that session.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much, Aras. Very interesting presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions?
It's one in the Q&A, I think.
By the way, while we were thinking about questions or seeking for potential questions, I would like to highlight again the difference of generic AI and generative AI.
Generic.
One just predicts and provides a result, but generative AI, it creates, it imitates humans and creates new content. That's amazing. Another thing, all these developments happened in the last 6 months. Of course, there are some earlier stages, but what I feel, there are some pregnancy tests, and if you see 2 lines, that means there is a baby on the way. What we experiencing is now, we now know there is an AI baby, but it is still not normal. In coming years, probably it will show its real potential. And another point I have to highlight, I have discussed some opportunities and challenges. Naturally, as the human being, we focus on opportunities without critically focus on the challenges. I think, but when I compare both opportunities and challenges, I feel that we have to put much effort to mitigate the risk that will emerge with these challenges.
Thank you for this clarification. As we're still waiting for our colleagues, okay, Professor Furia has just typed one. I was going to
there's a question in the Q&A. Maybe you take that first from
in the Q&A. All right.
Paul Prinsloo. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't notice that. On which aspect of distance education will generative AI impact the most and the most immediate? So for Prinsloo, Professor Prinsloo has just posted a question in the Q&A. On which aspect of distance education will generative AI impact the most and the most immediate? That's the most immediately. Do you?
Okay, I see just one question.
No, for Prinsloo. Did you see Professor Prinsloo's question?
Yeah, he's seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to take others, or did he answers this one?
How do you want? Do you want to take it in clusters, or you want to take one after the
other? I think the first one is about the digital divide. With each technology, digital divide is inevitable. On the other hand, what I see with generative AI, these technologies are first presented us for free to develop and imperfect models. They use our inputs for free. However, if you want to reach the premium access, then you have to pay.
Okay.
There is a financial barrier. So that means the digital divide will widen. Another thing, it's not about financial barriers, but it is still a problem to access these technologies because you need computers, maybe some digital literacy, internet connection, etc.
Mm.
So even though these technologies promises us some opportunities, digital divide is inevitable. And what I feel from my perspective, my impression is that it will widen the digital divide that we witness in distance education.
Mm. Okay, thank you for that. There's a question from Professor Prinsley, which I have now posted on the chat.
Okay.
On which aspect of distance education will generative AI impact the most and the most immediately? And there's another one from Olani Majula or Mahula. Where is the fear regarding the use of AI in education coming from?
And then Professor Bandele has a hand
Yes,
raised. Maybe we'll take that after.
Yes.
Okay, I will first answer the second question.
Okay. That's fine.
I remember stories about the television. I don't know how I look like, but I am a middle-aged researcher. Anyway, people were telling that television was a full box, and if you watch a lot of television, you will be full. And I also remember that using mobile phones will make a reverse evolution. I mean, we will be full again. And I recently used computer games. I like playing computer games, and once some of the people were arguing that using computer games will make us violent or something. In the end, what I mean, every new technology fears people because there is an unknown future, and unknown is always scary and fears us. And as I told you, even though now we experience generative AI technologies, the free part, the future is still unknown. That's why it's scary for many people. When it comes to the other question,
where is the fear of AI coming from?
Because we don't know the future. That's why there is a fear, and that's natural. I mean, that's something expected.
Okay, so it derives from our natural ignorance.
Yeah.
Okay, Professor Bandele, should I raised her hand a few minutes ago? I'd like to request that to
and I think it was by Paul principle on which aspect of distance education will generative AI impact the most and the most immediate. Actually, I didn't mention a lot about during my presentation, but I've been thinking on it for a while. I think in terms of the distance education, the 24/7 interaction, because in distance education, we always talk about distance in time and space, but more importantly, we talk about transactional distance. I believe that generative AI will make a significant impact to lessen this kind of distances. On the other hand, what lures me to research is OER, because we always talk about open educational resources and open educational practice, but I don't see much effort by the researchers in open online and distance education field. It's a popular research area in Western countries, but it is an ignored research area in many Asian and African countries. What I feel is that if we can write good prompts and check the quality control, it can have a huge impact in terms of creating free and accessible learning content. And I think that would be a significant leap, not only in terms of education, but for any educational purpose.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to invite Professor Bandele to get questions.
Yeah, Aras, if you can hear me clearly, let me join my voice to thank you so much for this educative and innovative research topic. And the first paper you showed on the screen, I mean, we could see quite a number of researchers collaborating with you. That shows the need for us to also collaborate with others on topics that are so innovative. Now, I also like the way you talked about your challenges, the angels and the devils. Now, when you look at the angel, you talked about, well, it is accessible to the extent that even the physically challenged are touched by it. But looking at the devil again, you said it's the inequality and the inaccessibility. That means there's like a contradiction. If it is so accessible, why is there inequality and equity as regards accessibility? So that's the one I wanted to assess. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I think this is a new business model with all new innovative technologies, because there is always some premium features that you can access. This is an opportunity, and some premium features you can access, and this will pose a challenge. So the same feature being freemium or premium will emerge as an angel or devil. Maybe that will clarify the contradiction.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Aras. Are there any other questions for now? Okay, while our colleagues are thinking of, I have a question. I listened to a debate on AI last week, Friday, at a conference, and one of the questions that was raised is the issue of the cultural content of AI that is being, yes, we ask ChatGPT to and other AI tools to give us content to address some issues. But most of the content are coming from Western societies and the global north. How do you think this affects the growth and development of distance education in Asian and African communities or countries?
I think it will not make a lot of impact in terms of distance education, but this is one of the issues that I was trying to explain. There will be a biased content. I mean, because if you feed the generative AI models with the perspective of Western society, it will pose a big problem that we have to solve. On the other hand, if you write exact prompts, I think we can bypass this challenge to some extent, but not exactly. But in any way, as I told you, there will be some problems, some biases. The important thing is to raise some awareness among us and not to use these technologies.
Okay.
We see a technology, we believe that there is something descending from the heaven to save the educational landscape. However, if we don't critically approach these technologies, it will not save us, but it will just threaten us. Maybe adopting them blindly will make fool us.
Thank you for your response to my question. Let me ask, is there any more questions from colleagues? Are there any more questions from colleagues on the floor?
Yes, if I may, while others are waiting. A thought came to me, Aras, as you were speaking. As with a lot of technologies, the field of education seems to always be lagging behind, either in the adoption or even in contributing or having a seat at the table to actually provide some, some input. I don't know, do you have any ideas in what way we can change this? Because here we're talking about, the education sector integrating or even accepting this, when we should be actually talking about, I feel, how we can be in the forefront, or if we're not in the forefront, but be a major contributor, so that we can have some influence at least on, how these tools, I realize that these tools are not only for education, but education is beginning to be a big field where, these technologies are being applied. So how can we change this narrative?
I hope I correctly grasped your question. But what I see is that there will be some early adopters and late adopters of any technology, and we cannot change that. This is the normal distribution of the curve. But the important thing is those who experience as early adopters in the educational landscape perhaps should share their experience so that the others can decide to use these technologies or not, or decide how to use these technologies effectively. I think we cannot change this pattern, but your question leads me another question or comment. The early adopters of these technologies have more responsibility to guide the rest of the people or rest of the community.
Thank you, Aras.
Thank you.
There's an extended question in the chat. So the question is Africa being the hub for traditional and cultural content, ready for these paradigm shifts in the use of AI? That was what the person is trying to say. Or if he can unmute himself, that's Dr. Kinfenwa, and ask, perhaps we will have a clearer understanding of this question.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Felix. Thank you, Prof. And thank you for the wonderful presentation. I'm actually very, been the few years I've had in being an expert in content delivery, software development, and also things that surrounds artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. It's one of the first time that we are seeing something very interesting, something very rapid that is cutting across everyone right now. I mean, I see kids as low as secondary schools, primary schools talking about ChatGPT. And, it was so funny that I did a test a few months ago.
Sorry, can you just ask your question, please? Just ask a question.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. I just want to lay some kind of background.
Please, because our time. Yes, just ask. Okay,
so I was just going to say that knowing that what some of the things are the challenges that have been posed and the advantages, I was going to do African being naturally, we deal so much we talk about our cultural beliefs, our traditional kind of way of reasoning and a way of content delivery. So with the way that we know the part whereby, I mean, every other thing gets so low before we get to even start to hear of it, before we start talking of implementation in this part of the world. So my question to educators in the house is that, are we truly ready to face this paradigm shift as posed by Professor Aras? Thank you.
Okay, I will try to explain quickly. Okay, this is my personal thought. So what I believe is that generative AI will be a huge part of our daily life. I mean, sometimes I feel that one day we will give assignments prepared by generative AI, and students will give us assignments prepared by generative AI, and generative AI is great then. So it is important not to ignore human component. That's one thing. When it comes to your question, I'm trying to answer based on the comment on the chat box. Especially for continents or territories like Africa with diverse traditional and cultural backgrounds. I think now we can have an opportunity to create inclusive curriculum. We have that opportunity. However, again, it's all about writing the right prompt. I mean, we have to specifically ask what we want, how we want to shape, and rather than just copying and pasting these outputs, we have to work on the that output, let's say curricula or a course outline. If we still make the human touch, I think they can be very helpful, and we have to get ready because I'm talking from the perspective of Turkey. Now in my country, everybody is using it. I mean, teachers, students, whether we like it or we don't like it, we have to learn about it. And it was another thing that I slightly mentioned. We have to develop our AI literacy, not only digital literacy, and we have to learn how to use it effectively.
And I think the gist of your responses reacts to the third question in the Q&A section by Jonas Sawyer, who is also concerned that maybe students are using the AI more than they should be studying. See, the issue is we have to deal with it. Teachers need to be more creative. And I think this also responds to Dr. Sonny from How Tripoli, who says that in Africa, we tend to be conservative. So how do we deal with the problem of being conservative? Again, we have to deal with it. AI is not going anywhere. It's either we jump on the bandwagon or we, So, but Dr. Opala is saying that we need to apply AI with caution. She says, if AI is used for digital literacy in distance education, will it not increase loneliness of students? Do you want to comment on this?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was reading and I want to comment,
Yes.
make a comment to that comment. But this is actually, we always listen to the same song. These kind of discussions are happening for learning management systems. So we use these technologies, but we always ignore the human component in educational processes. Again, even if we decide to use especially generative AI technologies, we shouldn't omit the human component from educational equation. Instead, we have to think how to effectively use these technologies. And the other thing, these technologies are just tools. I mean, we shouldn't forget these are tools, like our smartphones, computers, and other things. Rather than ignoring them and taking the advantage of these technologies, we have to focus good parts without ignoring human components. This is really important. You know, I always advocate the idea that no matter how sophisticated, complex, and advanced technologies we use, learning and teaching is social. So the social part should be reinforced by human agents, not machines or other technologies. However, it is also sounds wise to me. We can use, you know, this kind of generative AI or conversational AI agents to provide instant feedback, then we can work on that feedback, or for student support systems, etc. As I told you, there are some future opportunities and challenges, but it is up to us, because how we position these technologies in the educational landscape will decide if it's the opportunity or if it's a challenge for us.
Oh, thank you very much, Aras. For me, what stands out is what you said, that we can use ChatGPT or the AI tools to do routine tasks. And then when it comes to the cultural human parts, a human being needs to do that so as to ensure that the real feelings of the learners are addressed, the real needs are addressed. On this note, I'll conclude the question and answer session and invite Professor Fule to continue the rest of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Felix. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I think you will agree with me that this has been a very enlightening and stimulating presentation time and conversation. I would like to thank you, Dr. Aras Bozkurt, very, very much for the presentation and all that it has brought to the fore. Can we give Dr. Bozkurt another round of applause, please, everyone? I think it's done marvelously well. And the slides, I hope you will avail us of the slides and also the links to the papers you referred to. These will all be available for everyone through our website. I would like to thank my colleagues at RETRIDOL, Felix, who anchors the monthly webinar series, and all the other staff that are behind the scenes. I want to thank everyone who has taken time to join in. There are a few names that we see. There's so many people. I think at the high point we had about 64, and we had a very good mix from around the world. We had Professor Reju from Namibia, Professor Prinsloo, Professor McCoy from Mpine McCoy from South Africa. I think I saw Professor Jegede as well.
Yes,
now university librarian. Professor Eya, Professor Bandele, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and so many others from other parts of the country. We would be delighted to have you next month for another exciting session. And just one word, last word, for those of you who are interested in, there was an announcement in the chat about a research group that has been formed. This came out of the last webinar, and if you are interested, please reach out to Dr. Mpolete Modise, who is anchoring that, and it's a collaborative one because it's involving people researchers from around Africa. So, please feel free, if this conversation is generating some research question or idea in your mind, yeah, please feel free to use the platform to get interested researchers, because that is one of the main purposes of having this platform. So once again, thank you, colleagues, for joining in. And at this point, I would like to say bye from us. And I do wish us a pleasant rest of the day. Bye for now. Thank you, Dr. Bozkurt. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.